Hey, welcome back, you crazy kids. Let's play Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, the Game Boy Advance version. Turn this down for me a bit. Last time we got this mexy move here. It consumes a little bit of MP per extra spin attack you do, and you activate it by holding your charge for the spin attack, basically for double time, I believe. It's at least 1.5 time. And basically you just gotta keep mashing the B button, and you'll keep swinging around until you either run out of magic or run into something hard, I guess. Now, I think we're continuing on, finally. Yep. Last part was mostly side quests. We did Dungeon 1, but Dungeon 1 is pathetically short, and you blink and you miss it, essentially. And if you know what you're doing, Dungeon 2 is pretty much the same. Dungeon 3 is not entirely better about it, but it's at least somewhat longer. And can be extremely long if you suck at fighting the boss. But we'll get to that later. So, how have you folks been doing? Have you been chill? Getting excited for the Super Smash Bros. Release? I'm probably going to make a limited edition 3DS for that as well. I am betting. And again, the Meowskivich wishes he has the money for it. Oh well. Nope, there's one more thing we're getting before we're heading in. Yar. And that guy, if you talk to him, he basically goes, "Hey, have you found the book yet?" And if you have the book, he's like, "Yay, you found the book!" In case you didn't know to knock the book off the shelf in the library. I don't get what's with these mudmen or whatever they are. And these buzzards, I can't remember if they ever hit you. And Link sends a prayer up to the heavens. And God said, "Let these things move around for a bit. Okay, now go have fun." Desert Palace. And now I'm desperately searching for hearts. These are levers. And that was a Beamos. And to Snow Distress Fairy decides to sprinkle. Them fairies saved my bacon quite many a time in this run. Yeah, but just basically do as Meowskivich is doing in this dungeon, and you'll make it through in record time, I guess. Because all you need to do is grab that key, ignore these rooms, and enter this one. Go to campus. destroy the massive tentacles to get over there. As Pegasus boots, and there you go, big key. Now we can already go get the treasure of this dungeon. If you're wondering where the map is, it's in, I'll tell you when I walk by the door. That door and that door both go to the same big room. I don't remember what you do in there, but you gotta do something to get the treasure map. Not really treasure map, just map. No treasure coming from that map. And just push the button. Walk up here. And you get Power Glove. Now you can pick up rocks. And if you're really so desperate, you can just ignore the boss and walk all the way to the next dungeon. But why would you do that? You know? Nope. You don't need to use your lantern until very late into the game. I'm trying to remember how to open the door. And you gotta push that block. And you can find fairies. And that's the reason why I didn't remember what I needed to do to open the door. It's because all that's in there is fairies, and I tend to ignore fairies unless they're along my way and I need them type deal. Yep, just don't forget that heart piece to be going for all the heart pieces. And beware Beamos, because they will shoot you through the diagonal bits. And stand here. Nothing can touch you. It's only the bottom door. And there we have it. Except only we gotta find a key. Key! I really like the music in this game, it's pretty neat. And another room full of those. But, I believe, yep, you just get a key from picking up the pot. Oh wait, this is where you first needed the lantern. Silly me. It might actually be the only time you need the lantern. All other times you can just use the fire rod. A little silly thing here, I forget who I learned this from, but if you have the ice rod, you can do massive damage if you can manage to hit these guys with it. The trick is actually being able to hit the guys with it. because the ice shot has a slight delay before it actually goes. It's sort of like when you shoot the bow, you pull out the bow, then shoot the arrow. Except the magic blast, like, comes out immediately. It just pauses for a second before it fires off. This is probably the more difficult of the 3 early game bosses, but it's not difficult because, you know, it's still early game. The 3rd dungeon boss can be considered more difficult, but I consider it kind of annoying, because he doesn't really he's pretty, it's hard for him to kill you, and you're going to see why. And we get the blue pendant of power. Which is strange because most of the games portray the red pendant, or not red pendant, red object of choice as the power one, and the blue as wisdom. And even Link's Awakening, DX. The red tunic is the power one. Well, here's a bit of food for thought. Or rather, something I should probably look up. What came out first? Link's Awakening or Ocarina of Time? Well, Link's Awakening DX, I should specifically say. I know Link's Awakening, the original version, came out before Ocarina of Time, but did the DX version come out then? I couldn't tell you. I don't think you need to get these until... Well, sometime in the Dark World, there's going to be, like, 2 dungeons that you're going to need the flippers for. But we're going for the flippers. So anytime you go to the potion shop, just speak to Maple, and she'll top your hearts off. And that's, I believe, like a direct rip of the Game Boy Color sprites of hers. Since Capcom did this. Since it was last week when I last recorded, I don't remember what all I'm speaking. But I can't remember if I spoke about how basically it was Capcom for the longest time that really had any interest in doing top-down Zelda games like this. Like, some of the developers at Capcom just wanted to make Zelda games. They were originally planning on porting Zelda 1 to the Game Boy Color, actually. Which is how Oracle Seasons and Ages came about. They were wanting to first test their mettle by making a remake of Zelda 1, and then they wanted to make 3 games after that. In the Triforce series, as it's called. Look, you need 500 rupees to buy them flippers, so keep that in mind. But anywho, the Triforce series became Oracle of Seasons and Ages because they eventually, during the Zelda 1 remake progress, decided, I forget why, but they decided to just skip the remake and move on to the new games. And because it's hard for them to figure out how to program the passwords and stuff between 3 games, they decided to only stick with 2, apparently. Just going off of memory and stuff I've heard. But I remember seeing pictures in Electronic Gaming Monthly years upon years ago about the Triforce games. Actually, I think it was called Mystical Seeds, actually. Mystical Seed of Courage, Mystical Seed of Power, Mystical Seed of Wisdom. And yeah. And there was a few screenshots that I remember seeing that after I acquired the Seasons and Ages, way back before I moved away from England. I remember looking inside the magazine at those pictures and it was like, why didn't I notice this before? And I saw that there were some similarities, but there are some places shown in these screenshots that never appeared in Oracle of Ages and Seasons. So, probably lost relics of the Courage episode, I guess. But Oracle of Seasons is very much so got a lot of the resources from the remake of Zelda 1, because most of the bosses are just remakes of the bosses from Zelda 1. Which I found pretty cool. Such as Aquamentus is the first boss, of course. And instead of just hitting him in general, you gotta whack his horn. And also he can fly and charge, because they give him wings. Dig Dogger is a giant eyeball man, like he was before, but he's gianter and more eyeball-y. Except not just pure eyeballs, still got the weird body. And I really like that boss fight, just because it does follow the common trope throughout the series that started after this game, actually, I believe. Let's see. Yeah, after Link to the Past, I think almost every single boss inside of the rest of the Zelda series has followed the trope of you gotta use the dungeon item to fight the boss. Which might be considered good level design, but in my opinion, that is opinion. Because it is a decent design for an easy sort of game, but I like the wittier stuff, like using the ice rod on the second boss here in this game. It's like, yeah, you're not going to be able to use the glove at all, but yeah, you have your options for fighting the bosses. And you don't really get that in much of the games anymore. And there were a few bosses in this game that require you to use things. Oh yeah, if you have the ice rod, you can pop this guy, so you can do this cave early. Take rupees! And we're going to need a lot of rupees for a little while. And I will be showing off why. Anyways, the dungeon item used to fight the Dig Dogger in Oracle of Seasons is actually one of my favorite boss fights from any of the Zelda games, just because of how ridiculous it is. And I'll show it off when we get to that point, because I will be showing off that game sometime or another. Throw in rupees. Toss in 20. and happiness became one step closer. Great luck. And here we have fairies. Ah, sweet delicious fairy meat. Yeah. Now I'm thinking about it, the first boss, Uncle Mentis, isn't defeated by the dungeon treasure. You will need the dungeon treasure to get to him, but you don't need to beat him with it. In fact, I don't think you can beat him with it. Because, like I said, you gotta smack his horn instead of just stabbing him in general. And I cut there to being able to do this. Every 100 rupees you toss into the fairy fountain lets you upgrade your bombs or your arrows by 5. You can choose which one. And after the first 100, you can go in by 25s and 50s. I want more arrows. And I skip again. And we're continuing on our way, except only no. Pausing it here. We'll see you next time, in which I will blab about more game design. Goodbye.